So far, I like to say our defense has played pretty well. For the most part, we're flying around, we're getting to the ball. There's always things you can improve, but for the most part, I like our effort, I like our intensity, I like our, effectiveness on defense so far.
How do you, as a team, rebound? What was the attitude after the game and maybe yesterday?
It was a tough loss, but, the great thing about this game, you get another day. There's always another game to go play. You have to regroup and come back strong. We're a close-knit group. As far as right now, we're worried about FIU. We can't change the Virginia loss. We're going to get in here today, watch some film on FIU, and just get ready for this week.
Have you reflected on the game and decided what 2 or 3 things happened that cost you the game?
No, not really. We're a team. We win as a team, we lose as a team. So for the most part, they did more things right than we did to win the game, and that's what it is. We have to move on, regroup, and get ready for the next game.
What's the mindset of the defense? You guys went out there with your backs against the wall a lot. What's the mindset when that just keeps happening over and over and coming up with new stuff?
That's a part of football. There's going to be sudden change. There's going to be adversity. And we like that on us. It's our job to go out there and stop the offense, get the ball back for our offense. And we felt we did that pretty well.
Is Lorenzo like in the huddle? That first drive of the fourth quarter when he made a couple of plays, batted out fast, got a sack. He said at that point he was like, I'm kind of taking this over. Is he that intense? I mean, do you sense that?
Yeah, that's his personality. He's real chill off the field, but when he gets between those white lines, he's real passionate. He's real, he's a vocal leader, and he also goes out there and leads by example. So us seeing him go make those plays, spark something in us. Hey, we need to go match his intensity, go match his effort.
What methods do you use to kind of turn that page? What are some things some cues that this team goes through to kind of move on to the next game?
I think each player is different, but for the most part, we watch the film, we watch the Virginia film, look at our corrections, and we just take a deep breath and go about watching the FIU film now. Like I said, we can't change the Virginia loss, but the one thing we can control is the future, in our next game.
Do you know much about FIU at this point?
No, not yet. We'll end up watching film a little later today.
When you do come in there, because you guys have been successful after a turnover in the red zone, what's the mentality of pushing back? I think even the other day you almost on one of the field goals pushing back. What's the mentality of the defense when you kind of have your backs to the wall?
We got to get a stop. That's always been our mentality. Most of us have been playing together, for the duration of our careers. So, we trust one another. We have faith in one another to go out there and, do our assignment so that we can get the ball back for our offense.
You're going to be going to a place where the atmosphere may not be that great. It's easy to get hyped when you go to a hostile environment where you're at home, but how do you get yourself amped up going into a game where there's going to be could be a lot of innocence?
We're coming off a loss. That's motivation enough. You never want to lose a game like that. So, coming in this week, regardless of who we're playing, we're going to have that chip on our shoulder. We got to go out, and prove, everyone that we're the team we say we are.
You've been around a couple of years, and you know the last time you went there, all the fans that were there because of the guys on this team. Some guys, it's a homecoming for some guys. How do they kind of take it?
It is, and I know, we have a lot of South Florida guys. They have friends, some even have family that play for Florida International. But, I think we all look at it as a business trip. It's football. We have to go down there, with one objective, and that's to get the W.